Hey everybody, welcome to the In All Things podcast. It's time to see God in everything.
Hello everybody, welcome to the In All Things podcast. I'm not Mitch Frost, but I'm Jared Hudson, and I'm excited to be here today with a special guest who's not normally on the podcast, been on a few times. And we're here with Kristi Johnson today, who's going to share a little bit about what's going on in her life and the Brock Strong Foundation, and then lead our conversation today. So excited about that. And but anyway, just get started. We'll talk a little bit about this past Sunday, which was yesterday for us, and just give a quick little overview of the weekend. What did you see? How do you feel about yesterday and all the things?
Had a few technical issues yesterday.
Oh, just a few.
But overall, I think a good weekend. I think the marathon had a lot of our people there, which is pretty cool to see them running the marathon, especially for Children's Hospital.
We have an active church.
We do.
Yeah.
I've been able to go to that marathon a couple times and stand on the Angel Mile, which happens to be mile 11. And it's just a very cool thing.
Tell us all about the Angel Mile.
Yeah, so the Angel Mile is in honor of all the kids that have passed away that have been Children's Hospital patients. So I've done that twice, and there's lots of parents standing there with pictures and marathon runners running by and in tears, and I hear that like helps them get through it, because mile 11, a lot of them are like, I don't know if I can do this.
And that's always mile 11?
Yes, and if you're doing the half marathon, you're almost done, and you really feel like giving up. And then they see that, and so I think it's a cool thing. Like, I stand there in tears the whole time, the two times I've been on. Bummer it's on a Sunday, but.
Yeah, but that's kind of the world we live in now. I think the kids portion of it was Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Like they do like a kids run and a 5K and those kind of things, and then all the serious runners they do on Sunday. And I remember I did it one time. I did the Dayton Marathon with my sisters, and the reason we chose the Air Force Marathon in Dayton was because the only one we could find relatively close that was on a Saturday. Every single one was on a Sunday, and it's just kind of the world we live in now, unfortunately, however you want to look at it. But it was really cool to see, our church represented out there.
Yeah, even if it was on Saturday, I wouldn't be able to run it.
Hey,
not
no
a runner.
Shame, no shame. But our attendance was good yesterday, all things considered with that. Like you could tell that took a good chunk of our people away.
Yeah, and Mitch did a great job.
Yeah.
Mitch always does a good job. He has such a gift at such a young age, so love it when he's up there. I had small group last night, so
how'd it go?
For us, we start a little later than everyone else. This is our first one.
Okay.
Just because of my busy schedule, and it was really good. We were talking about like holy habits.
Okay.
And the first one was about being a peacemaker or peacekeeper, so it's very interesting. It's pretty.
What is that based out of any book of?
It's a Right Now
Bible
Media, and it's oh gosh, what's his name? I don't know. I can't remember his name. We haven't done him before, but yeah, so it was pretty good.
What's your small group attendance like these days?
So I have, if everyone's there, I have 18.
Yeah.
I think we had 14 last night. A few sick people, and you know how it goes. Yeah. You can have 6, and
take us into the Johnson small group. So you guys gather. Do you have food and snacks and hangout time?
Yes, we are. I know some groups are like. I know Steve's group is like, this person brings salty and this person brings a sweet. We're not like that. We're like, you want to bring something?
Free for all.
Bring it. If you don't have time, don't bring anything. Yeah. And so they show up at 6:30 and kind of chat for a little bit, and then we get to our study. And then after that, we're usually done around with the study like 8, but people hang out till like 9, sometimes 9:30.
Of course.
Like last night, we had lots of sweet snacks. We had lemon pound cake and brownies, and
so people wanted to stay.
Yes, and we like to make our home so people want to stay. It doesn't bother us. Like, we like it. We love hosting. It's never a stress. It's fine. My house is typically neat, so it's not like on Sunday I'm stressed that I'm having a small group.
And you guys are leaders and hosts.
Yeah.
So as far from a leader standpoint, what kind of prep work goes into that for you guys?
Yeah, so yesterday Terry led, and he just kind of looked over it with Right Now Media. It's so easy.
Very easy.
I lead a women's Bible study on Friday morning, and it's very different because it's a lot more prep. And during the week, we all have work to do. So on my women's Bible study, everyone has something to do every day for 5 days. And sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. I always tell them you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Right, exactly.
And we're able to go a little deeper, and I'm able to push them a little more. I'm not saying it's a guy-girl thing, but it seems to be a guy-girl thing. But we also really haven't tried it in our small group. So.
Sure. Yeah, our small group has been meeting for a few weeks, but last night was the first night where we started our topic. We're going through the book of Exodus together. It's kind of cool. I actually brought it up last night that with all the stuff that's going on in the Middle East with Israel and everything right now, it's kind of cool to go through Exodus right now and read all about the formation of the country of Israel initially and all that was going on with the Israelites. But our topic last night was faithfulness. So we're like, each section has of the book of Exodus has a theme, and each couple in the small group is taking a week. So it's kind of a cool format we're doing. And we were last night, me and Lisa Kay were last night, and we were partnered with Matt and Angie Stunts. So we talked about God's faithfulness, and we used Exodus chapters 1 through 2.5. And almost into 3, but yeah. So we're underway as well. A lot of small groups
awesome. I love that so many small groups other people are leading.
Yeah,
we threw that out to our small group, and everyone all of a sudden really liked my carpeting. Just staring down, like it's so intimidating for people, and I love it when I hear. I know Steve's group's doing that.
Yeah,
I tried, and everyone was like, no. I said, you don't want to listen to us every week? And they're like, yes, we do.
Yeah. I think there's an intimidation factor, because I think whenever you bring that up, people think like, oh, I have to be able to like preach and teach in front of a group of people, but it's not like that at all, especially with the content that the Sycamore Creek lets people have through Right Now Media.
Right.
I mean, you can watch a video and then just have a few questions ready.
Right.
And then that leads the whole conversation for an hour.
Yeah, it's so easy. If you are listening, watching this, and you're in a small group, I encourage you, step up and lead one. It's really not that bad.
It's not. Like I said, you can lead a small group effectively with, just a 10, 15 minutes of prep time.
Oh, absolutely.
Watch the video maybe ahead of time and jot down a couple questions and then lead.
We have a very chatty group too. So some groups, you throw something out and no one says anything. It's kind of awkward. Like, we don't even have that kind of group. Everyone has something to say. That helps. So are you sad about the Braves?
Am I sad about them?
You and Steve, both your teams are done, right?
I saw this quote on Twitter that said, baseball fans that get their October nights back is one of the sweeter things in life. You don't have to stress through one of the best months of the year when the air's getting cool and and so when the Braves went to the World Series in 21, I remember every night the entire month of October, you're just stressed out of your mind, which is funny, as fans, we're not even on the team. When the team doesn't even know we exist. Right. But here we are stressing about every second of the game. So I would say, am I upset? I'm disappointed, but it's harder on somebody like Steve, who has such high expectations for the team because they haven't gone to the World Series in so long. For me, it's a little different because we were just there in 21. So it's not like, oh my gosh, when are we ever going to win a World Series? But yeah, I would say that it's nice having the October nights free.
Moving on, I don't even know. Are you super big into any NFL team or anything? So college or NFL?
I really enjoyed the Atlanta Falcons, but they're not on national broadcasts up here, so I have to keep up with them on my phone. But also, they're not a good team at all. They have Cincinnati's quarterback from a few years ago, Desmond Ridder. So there's a lot of people around here that are familiar with him, but he's been doing pretty bad. So they've been nothing to cheer for. But NFL, I know Terry is kind of over the moon with the way the Dolphins have started this year.
That could change in a minute. Just like the Reds started so hot. And then
I saw this was like their best start in, I don't know, like 18 years or something like that. Did they win yesterday?
They did, but they played like Panthers who are 0-9
or something. They're 6-1 now, something like that. So that's pretty big for Terry. But let's transition into
before we
topic.
transition.
Oh, you got
okay. So I've been thinking about this. I couldn't sleep last night, so I was kind of making some notes about what we talk about today. But I thought we'd do something a little fun. So you and I have worked together for 11 years.
Wow.
Right? You've been here 11 years?
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And if you think about that and you talk about like the people you're closest to, you may say your family, your friends. And aside from your immediate family, I would challenge that there are fewer people that you're closer to than someone you spend so much time with, especially being on a small staff. Yeah. Like you, Steve, and I, and the other staff, we collaborate a lot. We small office, we just throw out all of our thoughts. So I thought we could tell one thing that maybe someone doesn't know about each other. So since I've had time to think about it, I'll definitely go first.
So like something that people might not know about you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That you know that no one else might know, and I'm going to tell them something about you. I know. I'm
you're
putting you on
so
the
like
spot.
you're so like out there and extroverted that
Yes.
I feel like everybody knows everything about you. So
That's
that would
what's
take me a
hard.
little bit to figure.
You have a little time.
You should have brought this
And
up.
we can
Okay.
always like come back at the end if you're still struggling.
I might be.
But for you, I thought the obvious, everyone can see your talent of singing and your music talent, which I'm always in awe of. Just hearing you yesterday, it was kind of like, oh, back to Jared. And I love Josiah as well. But one thing I don't know if everyone knows is just how many things you are good at. Like, I'm amazed at how you can build anything. You can, Jared, he's not in business to build things, but he did make
I did.
my
I was at
coffee
one
table,
point, yeah.
my end tables and my kitchen table. And people ask me all the time, where did you get that? And I'm like, oh, you can't get it. So just
It's exclusive line.
Yeah, I mean, I showed you a picture and you made my kitchen table exactly what I wanted, my coffee table. So there's that talent you have. I mean, you're talented with like electric stuff. You've helped with our room makeovers.
Yeah.
You tinted my windows.
Yeah.
So all the things that you're just good at, all the things. And I don't know if everyone knows that or sees that because you're a lot quieter than I am. So you don't really advertise it, but I just think that that's something people should know.
Well, thanks.
You're so good at all the things.
I don't like to come across that way. I think that happens naturally in my life just because I'm a DIYer and I don't like to rely on other people to do things for me when I can watch a 5-minute YouTube video and know how to do it.
But not everyone can do that. 'Cause I want to be like that.
But Lisa K says the same things about it. She's like, you just know how to do everything. And I'm like, well, I know how to do a lot of things, but I don't know how to do them well. I know how to get by in a lot of areas.
I think you sell yourself short. But it's a gift for sure.
Oh, well, I appreciate
that's
it.
That's just something that I thought about. So you don't have to answer for
Kristi,
me right
now. I'm like, I got to have something good, right? Like,
you can pass till the end of our conversation. How about that?
But I'm going to be my mind's going to be so deep in this conversation. I might need to like table that. You're going to be on next week.
I am.
So I might need a week to think about it.
Okay, you can think about it.
Because like I said, I feel like everybody knows, who Kristi is because you're active on social media with the foundation and with the church and every avenue of your life. And so like everybody knows everything
But
about
I want you to find something they might not know.
Okay.
Because you probably know me better than most people.
Yeah.
Like you've seen me sad, not many people have.
Yeah.
Like, so just think about it. We'll move on.
Okay. All right.
But I am getting ready to enter into like a very busy week.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't know anything about me, I am the founder of the Brock Strong Foundation, and the Brock Strong Foundation it's based on my son Brock, who had an amazing 14 and a half years of life, but unfortunately passed away too soon from an unknown autoimmune disease, unlike anyone in the world. But he was just amazing and giving. And if you met him, you loved him, and you thought you were his best friend. And so after he passed away, we had his memorial service in a football stadium. I know a lot of you have heard this story a million times, but over 4,000 people there. And my husband and I were just like, oh my gosh, what do we do? We can't let this end. What would he have done if he had lived to be 50 or 60? And so we started this crazy foundation. And when I was thinking about it last night and thinking about the topic I want to talk about today, I thought the whole thing is basically based on generosity.
Right.
So we just try to make everyone feel good and important, whether you have $5 in your bank account or $5 million in your bank account. And we do a lot of crazy things through the year that we won't get into all of it, but you can go to brockstrongfoundation.com and check us out, or our Facebook page, and follow what we do. But one of the things I want to talk about is generosity. So this Thursday is Brock's birthday.
Yes.
So when Brock was alive, I was that mom. He had huge birthdays. I mean, we here at the church painted a football stadium one time, and one end was painted exactly like the Colts end zone, and one was like the Bengals, because he liked both. So I mean, I went all out on birthdays. So I knew I was going to miss that. And Tucker, he's 25. He doesn't want me to plan a big birthday party for him.
Right.
So we've always done something big. So we go out that day, and we will do 11 big random acts of kindness.
Right.
So just some kind of ideas. I open it up to the public. If you want to go with us, you can come with us. And schools excuse the kids. People take vacation days. So we have 58 people going this year.
It's amazing.
I limit it to 50. We have 58.
Good.
And we'll break into 3 teams. And just some of the things we'll be doing this week is we go to the school, and we give every student a cookie that has a little sticker on it that says "Happy Birthday, Brock." There's a lot of students, 4,000 students that will give a cookie to.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and he loves school. So the whole day is based around what did Brock love and how can we, pay it forward. And then we'll go to a gas station and we'll pay. There's 3 teams. We'll go to 3 gas stations, pay for everyone's gas for half an hour. We will go and pack some grocery bags. And so we will be delivering 100 bags to a low-income elderly apartment complex with just some groceries. They love like Ziploc bags, stuff you plug in the wall that smell good, stuff they can't get from like the food pantry. And also this year, we're going to 100 Section 8 housing units, and we are delivering a bag full of groceries that have cereal and after school, and we're focusing on like kids things.
And that's new this year,
that's
right?
That's new.
Yeah.
We've done it one other year, but it's been a while. So we'll do that. We're going to pay groceries for an hour, doing something for the fire department. It's just a big day of fun and generosity, and we'll spend close to $50,000 that day.
So Brock would have been how old this year?
He'll be 23 this year.
So, okay, so he would have graduated high school in 2019,
yeah,
something like that.
So Tucker was 16. He would have been 19. Yeah.
So like this just always boggles my mind that, when I look at how old Brock would have been. So people that are like the high school seniors and juniors now, they never knew him.
Yeah.
More than likely never knew him. They might remember a little bit of what was going on in the community. But when you look at like the lasting legacy, and I saw you guys were like and they still do stuff at the football games, in honor of Brock. Yeah, Brock Night. And all these kids are like going crazy in high school and going crazy for this kid named Brock that they had never known. And I think that because of what the foundation stands for with generosity and giving back, it's really easy platform for them to buy into right away, even not knowing who he was.
Yeah.
And luckily for you guys having like so many pictures of Brock, you can post one every day you do one every day in October, right?
Yeah.
So like it doesn't take long once you get connected to feel like you knew him, so you guys do such a good job at that. Like just his legacy and his person is still very evident. And it wouldn't, that because they wouldn't be having Brock Night at the football game all these years later.
And that's my heart. Like you'd never want your child to be forgotten.
Right.
Like, gosh, I hope no one ever is in the position I am. But like you have this whole person in your life, and he was amazing, and you just don't want him to be forgotten. And the schools are great, so we still go in and talk to the 6th grade every year, the entire 6th grade, about Brock and more about generosity and how they can be generous as a 6th grader. They do a big project with the food pantry. It's an amazing thing. So those kids learn about Brock in 6th grade, and it kind of carries out. But every year they call me and say, we want to do Brock Night at the football game. I'm just like, they throw green powder in the air.
You're like, okay, let's do it.
Yes,
of course. I can
awesome.
never say no.
No, I love that people remember him. Like, having the foundation is awesome, but then for me, it's a separate thing of Brock too. And so anytime someone remembers Brock or does something for Brock, not just because of the foundation, that really means a lot to me as his mom. So, yes.
Yeah, keeping his name and person alive. Like, it's easy to, I guess, probably easier to keep somebody's name alive, but to keep their actual legacy and, like, personhood and character alive is the tougher part. But for him, because of, how incredible he was as a kid, it's actually not all that difficult, right? Because you're like, let's just keep doing what he wanted to do, which was generosity and giving back.
I just had something amazing happen on Saturday. I wasn't going to share this, but I was at dinner with 2 sets of couple friends, so 6 of us. And so our server comes up to me after a while, and he's like, can I ask you a question? Like, do you have something to do with the Brock Strong Foundation? And I'm like, oh, I'm Brock's mom. So he is a 28-year-old kid who had been in the infusion clinic with Brock, had the same, had an autoimmune disease, but was going through the same treatments, had all the same doctors. And so that was just amazing. Like, what are the chances of that?
Yeah.
And so then a little later, this man comes over and he's like, are you Brock's mom? And I'm like, I am, like, kind of odd.
Right.
And he said, and he said his name, which I was like, okay. And then he said, I was married to Carol Blanchard, which is one of Brock's first doctors who passed away. And so then I knew who he was. But the cool story in that was she was amazing. And she was a hematology oncology doctor. She got breast cancer early on in Brock's life, went out for a little bit, came back. Ended up being his doctor again. We loved her. She was just amazing. Then she kind of like went into urgent care. So I would like see her every once in a while, but I lost touch with her. And so after Brock passed away, she sent me a donation and a letter talking about how she had had some health issues, but she had followed Brock's story and how much he meant to her, and she'd love to get together. So I'm like, great. So I tried to get together with her, and she just told me, like, I don't get around very well. And she was about my age. She wasn't old, old or anything. And I never got together with her. And one day her husband called me and said, I want to tell you that she passed away yesterday, but I would love for you to come to the funeral. So I'm like, okay. So I take Tucker with me, who's like, 17 years old. And I'm like, I don't really know anyone here. It won't take long. I'll take you to lunch, So we go to this funeral in a church, and there's two going on. And we can't tell which one's which because I don't know anyone.
Right.
And then I see a sticker, a Brock Strong sticker. So I'm like, all right, this is it. So we go in that side, and eventually I could see like a line of people. So I'm like, let's just go through. And so and there's two like girls. I'm like, sorry for your loss. And I get to this man who I assume is her husband. And I'm like, and he had called me. So I'm like, hi, I'm Kristi Johnson. And he goes, oh, thank you for coming. And I said, I'm Brock's mom. Well, he starts crying hard and grabs his daughters. And he's like, this is Brock's mom. And they're all crying. And I'm like, it had only been about 10 months since Brock passed away. So I'm trying to keep it together. And Tucker's standing there like, what in the world? And so he proceeds to tell me like all these times that Brock was a part of their life that I didn't know about. But specifically, a few months before she had passed away, she had coded, like they thought she was gone. She came back to life, but they're like, she probably won't wake up or whatever. She woke up and told her husband that she saw Brock, and Brock told her it was not time to go yet. And I was just like, wow, like I had no idea any of that happened. So I saw him the other night, and he told me like he got remarried as his wonderful wife, and it was just so good to see him and remind me of the impact that Brock had, and he paid for all of our dinner.
Yeah.
So that was generosity.
He's paying it forward.
He's paying it forward. But just so you know, especially this time, we're so busy and everything we do is great, but at the end of the day, Brock is still gone, and that's so hard on my heart, and I try to like put on this happy face, and but it's hard. And so just a reminder like that of like, he was amazing, and this is why we're doing this, and you can keep going. Yeah,
it's funny because we talked about last week in our podcast, for those that were able to listen, we talked about heaven, we talked about hell, we talked about, the afterlife, and, where are all those people right now, that have gone before us. And when we think about what Brock's doing in the spiritual realm of heaven right now, and like, there's a good chance that there have been people that have passed since that have come and like told him about all that's still going on because of him. But when you think about the day that you're reunited with, because Scripture's clear that we'll recognize our loved ones in heaven, when you get to be able to go up to him and be like, listen, let me tell you about all the things that we've done, like because of your legacy. That's gonna be an amazing time.
I can't wait. I can't wait. But all that to say, I thought today we'd talk a little bit about generosity.
Yes.
And I know we've talked a lot off script, but we're going to try to do this. I looked up the definition of generosity just to make that clear to people, because I had to look up generous, because if you looked up generosity, it said the act of being generous. Sure. So it says, showing a readiness to give more of something as money or time than is strictly necessary or expected. So it's kind of doing something that's not expected, that you don't have to do, that maybe is kind of a sacrifice. So my first question to you is, do you think that's innate or learned? So do you think that's kind of like a head issue or a heart issue about being generous?
That's a really good question. Whenever somebody asks a question about our innate character, I always am brought back to, us as a created being, created in God's image. So I believe that our God is a generous God. So I think that there are parts of that are built into us. I think a lot of that gets covered up and stolen by our sinful nature and our sinful self and our desire to be consumers. And but I think that different people probably have different levels of their innate generosity. I would say. Yeah. But that's a really good question, because I think that people would probably also tell you, oh, I struggle with that. I've just never been a generous person. And you'll have people tell you, oh, it's easy to be generous, and that's across all religious spectrums, probably people that aren't believers.
Do you think people, believer or non-believer, know that we're supposed to be generous?
I think so, because I think that our built-in moral compass allows us to feel good about generosity. Yeah, whether or not you want to admit it or not, there's things that we do in life that make us feel good because of, that's what we are created to be and created to do. whether people want to realize or not that they were created to do those things.
Right.
Yeah. So
one of my favorite scriptures is in 2 Corinthians, and it talks about how you give. So, some people give, but they don't give like the Bible tells them to. They don't give with a cheerful heart. And so one of my favorite scriptures about that is, where's that? Here it is. So it says that, you will... the farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop. Basically, you reap what you sow, but you must decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully, and God will generously provide all that you need, and you will have everything you need. And I love that scripture about giving with a good heart and generously in a happy heart, because sometimes I think people give because they feel pressure to give.
Yep.
And that's not God's intent for us to give, or give because you want to get something in return. Also not something that, we're supposed to do. We talk about giving at church, and, the Bible does say if you give, you'll get all that back to you, but you also shouldn't give just to get something back. Does
exactly.
that make sense?
It's a tough, it's a catch-22 almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so many people think about generosity as money, and it's so much more
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
money. Like in the church world, we use time, talent, and treasure a lot. But I also saw something that had 7 types of giving. So your thoughts, which I thought was interesting.
Interesting. So stop right there.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because
I think that might be a secular way to say praying.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
I can get on board with that.
When people say, I'll be thinking about you
Exactly.
while you have surgery or something. And for us, we would pray for someone.
So instead of thinking, oh, I'm not going to worry about you, it's like, I'm going to be generous with the time that I have in my own head.
Yeah, so
and
you
think
know that I
about you.
care. So
Yeah.
generous in my thought. I'm sharing my thoughts
Right.
and spending a little time on you. I don't know. That's what I think.
Okay, that's a good one.
I thought they were interesting. Words.
Yes.
And I think that's more like telling someone something nice and appreciation. Money, obviously, is the easiest one. Everyone needs money.
Yeah.
Time is something
big
that's
one.
very important. And we're all crazy busy. So to carve out time for someone is a big deal.
That's why it feels good when somebody can, help you out with something that,
Yes.
you need desperate help with, because how busy our world is.
Right. And they're choosing you. They're saying no to something else to choose you. Influence. So that's being generous with your influence. So
I guess using your own platform to help people. I don't know if that's where they're going with that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like Brock Strong Foundation. I can be generous because I have the influence of the foundation and my board members that I can come to and say there's this big need, and they're like, okay, let's do it. I don't know. Things. So that's more like, I think, donating clothes or sharing your car or whatever it is. And attention.
Okay.
Which seems a little bit like time to me.
Yeah.
But that was like another list I found. But what if you don't feel like being generous? And what do you think the reasons behind that are?
Yeah. I mean, we are character flawed people, so it's easy to just ignore that part of life. When we become consumed with ourselves, we're prideful beings.
Or selfish. We want all the things.
Yeah. So definitely.
Yeah, I thought like some things I thought about. Again, I couldn't sleep, so I had way
to
think about this.
It's all good. Go ahead.
It might have never been modeled for you. Like if you didn't have generous people around you, you might not understand how to be generous.
Right.
Or maybe you didn't have anything growing up, and so now maybe as an adult you're in a position where you have things, and then you want to hold on to all of it.
Yep.
Because you don't want to be that way.
Yeah, real quick on that.
Yeah.
So my parents gave me an allowance growing up, and I had to put 10% of my allowance into a little tithing jar. And then I think another 10% went into like my long-term savings jar. And then, we had, I think my dad made us as kids have like 5 different jars for what we spread our allowance in for different things. Like, you had like your fun money, something you waste money on. But I remember the generosity jar for church. And as a kid, I didn't really understand it. But because I feel like the way that I was raised through that, it made me understand it a lot better eventually. Because a lot of people, they were never raised that way. So they have to learn it as an adult, which is even more difficult.
I love when Audrey has her little envelope with her money. And Jared's daughter, Audrey, will 9?
She will be 9.
Yeah. And puts her little envelope in with her money. And I'm always that just does my heart
And
good.
I tell you, like... they, as kids, they don't always do that with the joyful heart, right? Like when they get money around the house for doing chores around the house, it's like, and we tell them, like, remember, you got to give some of that to church, to the Lord. And they're like, but why? I wanted to buy this or that. And like, they don't understand it. But, getting them in that routine, ingraining that in their mind as a young age, when their minds are forming rapidly, will help them when they're older to be more generous.
Well,
So
that's why we did that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people think they don't have anything to offer. So if you're someone who doesn't have money, so you're like, I can't be generous, I don't have any money. But like all the other things we've talked about, your time and your talent and there's so many things you can be generous with, but some people just think about money. I think some people have been burned by being generous. I think about, agree. I don't know anyone, but you think about people who have given money to like a TV evangelist then got burned, or given all their money and promised that, something's going to happen and it doesn't. Mm-hmm. So I think that I've seen that even in people like my age. Sometimes I think it's a hard issue. We're just super selfish and don't want to be generous.
And we make a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
Too, that, we lie to ourselves about why we can't be generous.
Yeah. And another one, a big one, is we just don't trust that God will provide.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one, which is kind of goes along with the heart issue.
It's easy to look at our lives as a whole and just think, I don't have the capacity to be generous in any of those 7 areas or whatever that you listed. Mm-hmm. I remember we did a series a few years ago. We mocked the title, I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. But
Save up, or what do you say?
There's some principles in there that are really good, and I know we've recycled some of them through the years with some of our giving series. But one of the most impactful things that we can do, as our capacity grows, is to make sure that, and we've used this phrase multiple times, but make sure we maintain breathing room. Because if you don't have breathing room in your finances, in any of those areas in your life, you're going to always feel like you're gridlocked to where you can't give anything. If you don't have breathing room in your schedule, in your calendar schedule, then naturally you're always going to tell people, sorry, I just don't have time. Mm-hmm. But if you maintain that breathing room space to where it's just dead space that's dedicated for, times of generosity or times to be to yourself, it's way easier to be generous. So I think of it, one of my close friends, he's wealthy, but for the longest time, before he came to know the Lord, he didn't have any breathing room. He spent every cent on extravagant things. And I remember him coming to me and talking to me about tithing to the church. And he was like, I make X amount of money, which is more than I could ever imagine. And he's like, I just don't have anything I could give. I have nothing. It's all and I'm like, you need to start creating as your income grows, as your wealth grows. Stop allocating that money before you have it. And that way you can build this breathing room into your life. And slowly, I think he started to learn that. But it's not easy. It's we think we're so consumer minded in our sinful nature that it's like anything that I get belongs to me. And it's easy to spend everything that you have, and it's easy to fill your calendar, especially in 2023. It's easy to fill your calendar every single night of the week with something if you wanted to. Yeah. But that just prohibits our generous heart, generous nature. Yep. And I think that for those that weren't taught generosity growing up, that's one of the easiest ways to start building it into your life. Just start to create small pockets of your life in those areas that you mentioned earlier that aren't dedicated to things, and don't allocate them to things ahead of time. Just like this is me time, this is my breathing room space, and then as you grow in the future, you have time and talent, abilities, money to be generous.
Definitely a practice. And money is such an odd thing in our world. Like, it's very private. If you look up the reason for divorce, it's right at the top of reasons for divorce. It causes, things with friendships. It can be so evil, but the reality is everything costs money. Your house, your electric, like, you have to have money to get around. But it's such a dividing, evil kind of thing, and it doesn't have to be, but it's also a practice. Like, I would never tell anyone, like you said, just to go out and, okay, well, this week I'm going to give 10% of my income. And if you've never done that before and you haven't planned for that, you're going to have a problem at the end of the month.
No matter how much money you make.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it's a practice. I know when I first started going to church, I didn't tithe right off the bat because I didn't really understand it. I knew I was supposed to give, but it's your money. And, you give $50 a month and then you give a little more. But then at some point, the learning clicked to me that I'm called to do this and that God will provide. But I planned for that. So I didn't just say that one day and give 10%. Like the next month, I'm like, we're doing this. Yep. And so then we gave 10%. And I didn't think there was any way I was going to be able to do it. Like when I looked at my budget, I'm like, I can't do that. I don't have enough money. Yep. But then somehow it just works. I don't even know how to explain it. But money is such an odd thing. And people are so hung up on money. And it's so much more than money. So you have to, money is a big deal because it makes everything, it makes our church go around. It's the reason we're able to do all the things with our kids and our students and our outreach. We do so much in outreach. Like we give so much as a church and keep our lights on and have, electricity. All that stuff is around money. And it's just a fact of life that it is. So beyond money, though, I think there's so many other things, and it's really contagious. So giving is contagious. I love to hear stories about things, but I also think about this scripture in Matthew 6, so I don't mess it up. When it says, watch out, don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets and calling attention to your acts. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. So the whole thing, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. So for me, that's a hard thing because I remember it was on my memories in 2016, we were teaching on generosity here.
Sure.
And so we wanted to show generosity. And so we had told everyone to give something in this offering, and we were going to do something big with it at the end of the month. And so we decided to give the pizza deliverer, you remember this, a tip. And so we collected all this money. We ordered a pizza. She had no idea what was going on.
Right.
We bring her all the way into the stage. And, we could only do it once because we had one offering. So we videotaped it so the rest of our church could see because it was their money. And so we did this amazing video. We didn't share it with anyone besides our church, but somehow the news got it. So they share it, which is awesome because it's like there's so much bad news in this world that something good like that is heartwarming and may make you be a little more generous. But we got the comments about, why are you advertising this? Don't let your left hand do. And we're kind of like, we didn't do that. Right. Like people are so mean still.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a hard time with that with Brock Strong because it's not my money. Like what I'm doing with people are giving money to Brock Strong and they want to know where it's going. Like if I never told anyone what you're doing, you wouldn't want to give to us. You hear all the organizations that are under scrutiny for their, the cost that they pay their people and their money's not going back out. And we are an organization where everything goes back out. So that was such a hard thing being a Christian and on church staff to realize like, I have to kind of brag about this because it's not my money, it's your money. And I want you to see what you're doing and it's contagious. So that scripture, I get what they're saying. Like, don't go out and just say, look what I did to try to get the credit because it's really, God blessing you to be able to do those things. But on the other hand, we need a little good news in the world. We need to see some good things that people are doing. What do you think about that?
I would say that scripture is interesting. I think that you can always tell fake generosity because it doesn't last, right? I think the people that are genuine in their generosity usually do it quietly, relatively quietly. When you think of some of the big donors to your foundation that ask for nothing in return, and they don't even ask for their names to be put out there, but they're ongoing and very repetitious. But then on the other hand, you have people that are loud in their generosity and they want everybody to know it. When they don't get the feedback that they thought that they were going to get, then they clam up and they're just not generous. And it wasn't true generosity. And I think that's basically what that scripture is. I think it's also a warning about those kind of people too. In your life is like, don't entertain them. Don't let them think that they're doing a good thing just because their generosity is loud. Loud generosity is fake generosity in my opinion. I think that and not just talking about money either. I think in your case, when you have all these people that want to help out with projects, are they doing it because they want their face to be seen on social media on a video that you post, or are they doing because they genuinely just enjoy that type of thing? They enjoy getting their hands dirty for the sake of a bigger cause. I think it's a great scripture and a great truth.
Yeah.
So
it's a hard one to balance because, like I said, my heart knows like you shouldn't do that. And my heart's not doing that to say, look what I'm doing, but look to see what we all can do. Because one of my biggest things is, if you give $10 because that's all you have, but if you put that with a bunch of people giving $10, it's a huge impact.
Absolutely.
I had a little girl come up to me in a Walmart parking lot with her mom, and her mom said she raised some money for Brock Strong, but she's embarrassed that she only raised $25. But I was able to tell her, do you know what this can do? This can give a family in Children's Hospital a meal. Like, this matters.
Yeah.
$25 matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's so important to let people know. And people are starved to do nice things. That's one thing that I do find, having a foundation. If I put something out for volunteers, it like fills up like that. I'm never begging for volunteers.
Yeah.
And a little different in church because we're a volunteer organization. And
Right.
sometimes we're like, gosh, we need more worship people or whatever. And it seems hard to get people. But for whatever reason in Brock Strong, it is nutso. Like, I put something out there and it just fills up because people are starved to do something nice.
Yeah.
They don't know how to. They don't know where to. It may be weird for them just to do something nice for someone. So to have it organized is a big thing.
And you make it really easy as
Yes.
well. Like you put a sign up genius out there
Yeah.
and you're like, pick your time slot. And also they know that, you're not going to keep on hounding them for more and more and more.
Yes.
They can do their part and they can feel good about it and then move on
Yes.
into the next thing that they want to do. And I think kind of hurts us as a church internally a lot of times when we want people to serve because we know the need is bigger than just a one time.
Yeah.
And we don't want to often verbalize that because we're scared. A lot of times it's going to scare people away. With kids ministry workers, like the reality is Amy needs like 10 people that could serve every single week
Right.
in order to fully staff her. But it's hard to get that level of commitment from people. It's easier for us to say, hey, can you do this one thing for me one time? And we know that they're going to be able to do it and they're going to do it with a grateful servant heart.
And that's generosity.
yeah.
That's generosity with
Yeah.
your time. That's a huge act of generosity. So I wrote down some things. This is just me thinking of ways to give. So I'm going to
Okay.
throw out some different things. Obviously, money. We've talked about that.
Right.
I think the main scripture in there about giving 10% is Leviticus. You can give to charity. You can give to the poor. There's lots of options for money, but I
Right.
wanted to throw out some non-money options.
Okay. Which I think people are wanting
Yes,
to hear. Yeah.
because I want to teach you how to be generous.
Sure.
If you feel like you're not generous and you don't think you can, like, I don't have anything to offer, I have no money, well, I tell you what, you can be generous.
Let's go.
Here's some. I have 15 that came off the top of my head, so there's more. This is just my list. So give your stuff. So instead of throwing away your old clothes, you can donate them to whatever organization you feel you want to. Or if you have kids, give them to friends' kids. I know yesterday, I think Elsie had on one of Bexley's outfits.
Yep.
And so that's awesome. That's a great way to be generous because it saves you from buying them. Plus, Bexley's really stylish, so that helps.
And you can clean out your stuff and feel good about that
Yes,
too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't always think like you have to sell everything. Like, if you have the opportunity, don't put all your clothes on Facebook Marketplace. Give them to someone who needs them. That's generous. That's an easy way to be generous. Volunteer time. We've talked a lot about that. There's organizations. There's so many things you can do to volunteer time. I think about this elderly apartment complex we do a lot for with Brock Strong. They're so sweet, and there's 92 of them, and they don't really have medical issues. They're just elderly and low income, but they're very lonely. They have no one around. They love just spending time with people. Like when I walk, I stop by and talk to them, and that makes their day. When I drive by, they know my Jeep, so I wave at them.
Yeah.
So just like any kind of way to volunteer time. My third one is to give blood.
Yep.
I am a huge blood donation
Get on your soapbox.
advocate.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Brock needed blood. And when they say there's a shortage, they're not just saying that. I used to think that too.
Yeah.
Like, they're just saying that. Brock has sat in the hospital and waited for that. He's been very sick, and we've had to wait for it to come from the West Coast. So it is so easy and it does not hurt. Like, no one likes a needle be stuck in their arm, but I think it's easier than giving blood.
Yeah.
And it takes an hour of your time. And talk about being generous. You can save 3 people's lives. Like, not just help them, save their lives.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage you, find a blood drive.
It's been a while since I've done that. It's been, I don't know, it's probably been a year since I've done it.
Yes.
I got to do it again.
It's so easy.
Got to get back into it. Yeah.
Just do it. I know some people can't for medical reasons, and I'm not talking about that. But if just because you're afraid or you don't want to give the time, what a generous, life-saving. There's not many things on my list that are actually life-saving.
That's a selfless one too, right? Like, because you are not going to see the fruit of that ever.
You do get a little note saying, here's where your blood went, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So give blood. Meals. Providing meals for people. Like, we all have to eat, so we all cook. And if you don't cook, you can even DoorDash or, buy something for someone. If you have a friend going through something, or an elderly neighbor, or someone had a baby or a hospital, or just to be nice. Like, I know in my neighborhood, we're all very close, and I make the soup that they all like. So I know when I make that soup, I'm going to take some to Victor. I'm going to take some to Phil.
You better.
Yes. So just sharing that is just a way to be generous. Babysit for someone.
Okay.
So not only like just,
Amen.
I love to babysit for Mitch's little girl because she's super cute, and I would never in a million years ask to be paid. I think the first time I actually gave them a gift card to go out so I can babysit. But also in like your stage of life, if you babysit for someone else's kids and they can babysit for your kids, and we did that when my kids were young. It's easy. It's just
another benefit of being in a small group
with a lot of kids.
Yes, with a lot of kids is that you can set up a schedule with your small group people and say, we're going to babysit this night. You guys go out, trade back and forth. Oh, we've done that before. It's a blessing.
And it's generous. It's another way to be generous. Help somebody move. I know you have helped a lot of people move.
I love that.
Yeah, I know.
It's a
Terry
free workout.
has. Yes, and people need it. And people hate to ask people to help them for anything. No one wants to ask for help for anything. And so that's like just a really easy thing that makes what could be so much work a lot easier. Take someone's trash up. I think I tell this to the sixth graders all the time. Like, you have a neighbor whose trash is down there, take it up for them, especially if they're elderly. Like,
absolutely.
I feel like it used to be a big thing that we did so many things for elderly, and now we've kind of lost sight of it. But you know what? Bring their trash up. It sounds dumb, but it's generous, and it'll mean a lot to them. One of the biggest things that we get feedback on Brock Strong is wrapping paper, where we give them a roll of wrapping paper. Now, this wrapping paper is $1.
Right.
But people will come to me in tears because they're just not nice to not used to people being nice to them. So the smallest act will make a big difference. Mow someone's yard or shovel their driveway when they're going through something, or sick, or have visitors or out of town. My neighbors are amazing at that. Like, during Brock's transplant in the last couple months of his lives, I was never home. Terry was juggling everything, and they just took care of that for him.
Yeah.
Huge. So do that for someone, especially like if you like mowing. Terry likes mowing, so he would come mow your grass.
Come on over, Terry.
Yeah. Give someone a ride. Like, if you know someone who's going to the doctor and, they probably shouldn't be doing that alone.
Sure.
Again, I keep going back to elderly people, but it doesn't even have to be that. Like, someone who just needs someone there, or someone that needs a ride, to the airport. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Like, paying at the airport.
Yeah.
But sometimes your flight's at 6 a.m. and nobody wants to get up.
Yeah.
But how generous is that for you to do that? Okay, give someone a ride. Offer someone a place to stay if they need a place to stay. Make sure you know them.
That's it. Yeah. Big disclaimer there.
Yes. Run an errand for someone. Like, I know this week is crazy busy for me, and I have to pick up 4,000 cookies at Cheryl's Cookies tomorrow, along with pick up 5 pallets of groceries for something else we're doing. So one of my friends is going and picking up those cookies for me, out of her way, but so helpful. So,
and I'm sure that's such a sacrifice, because she's probably not going to get to smell those amazing cookies or taste them. Yeah.
But she's very busy, so I know that's a sacrifice
that's huge,
for her, and that's so generous. Also, a friend here is going to meet me at Kroger with a trailer and a pallet lifter. I don't know what it's called.
Pallet jack.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And he's going to help me get those groceries, and that's
awesome.
Out of his workday. Very generous. Write a note to someone. That's a super easy one. Just out of the blue, a note, not a thank you note, but just a note, like telling someone, like, I appreciate you, or I see this in you, or I think you're awesome at this. Just something nice. I tell that to the sixth graders, because if they did that to their teachers, it would be amazing.
They go through a lot.
Yes, easy to do. Just listen to someone when they're going through something, just to spend time. It's your time you're sacrificing, and listening to them and giving them like a safe place to land. I think that's an easy thing. Teach someone a skill that you have. Like, you have a lot of skills.
Oh.
Teach me how to make, a table or something. Teach something that you think you have nothing to offer, but I know in Canal there's like some women that teach other women how to sew, or teach them how to bake, or things like that. that. And that's a big sacrifice too. And my last thing I had on my list was just pray. Praying for people and what they're going through is definitely a way to be generous with your time and your prayers. Like if you have a relationship with Jesus and you pray already, like that's very generous to share that with even someone who maybe doesn't know Jesus. Those are like my really quick things that I was
think
like.
Prayer, the prayer one is big because I think that's going to feed into all the other ones, right? If you're praying, if you're praying for somebody and you're intentional about it, I think the Lord's going to move in your heart to be generous in all those other ways, right? Like it's a byproduct of prayer is going to be, your willingness to jump in all those other areas too.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. So I think anyone can be generous.
Yeah.
So I hope that if you've listened to this, it's helped you see it a little differently.
Yeah.
And maybe you're like, oh, I could do that. Like I could give blood. Like.
Yeah. So. Generosity, big topic for today. The cool thing is you're going to be on next week as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to recap briefly at the beginning of next week the feelings of generosity that you get from Brock's birthday celebration on Thursday.
Yep.
And
if you're listening to this, when does this come out? Wednesday?
It will come out Thursday morning.
Thursday morning. So if you're listening to this Thursday morning, we also have a totally free party at the park right behind Homestead Restaurant and Canal. And we have bounce houses and balloon makers and face painters, barrel and boars donating all the food. It's a great free event, something to do with your kid. The weather's actually supposed to be like high 60s.
It's not always like that.
No, it's a great night. If you bring a board game or a Barbie or an action figure, for each one you bring, you go into a drawing, and we give out 11 of Brock's favorite things. Now, we donate all that stuff to Ronald McDonald House, Children's Hospital, but we'll be giving out Ohio State Buckeye tickets, which you wouldn't want. But we're also giving out like all his favorite gift cards and a fire pit. So it's just a fun night. Come on out.
Did you not raffle off a car one year at that?
We did raffle off a car one year.
That's what I was thinking.
That was
so
pretty
you
awesome.
never know what Kristi has up her sleeve for that party. But anyway, yeah. So look forward to talking about that next week. It'll be cool to recap. So I have to circle back and talk about you for a minute, and just listening to you talk about this list of ways to be generous. I don't know. You were really nice with mine, so I feel like I have to be nice with yours.
You don't have to be nice.
It's easy to be nice with yours. I would say that one thing, and I feel like this isn't something that people don't know, like because everybody knows who you are, but you have amazing discernment when it comes to people. One of the things that we deal with here in the church internally is just people problems and people. Not problems even, but just people,
Situations.
Yeah, we meet a new person on Sunday morning and immediately you can discern, their ability to do this or that, which is a big benefit that we have that you actually kind of help them get into serving places and you can help them find a place to serve. But even with like our personnel searches, if we're looking for a new staff member, you're always the one that is like, I don't think this person is going to work because of their personality, X, Y, and Z, or I really think this person would be a good fit for us. I think that people probably know that about you, but
I don't know if they do.
But it's something that like I think without that piece in the office, a lot of the rest of us are just very opportunistic, jumpy at things, like whatever comes our way, we like, all right, let's but you're a lot of times you're kind of like, hold on, let's slow down and let's think about this person. And you're like, this is what I see in them. They could be doing this or they could be doing that. I think that in an alternate life, maybe you would be like a matchmaker for like a dating service or something,
could be
right?
a side gig for me.
Like you could, because I think like you love all of the personality assessments. You love talking about you like talking about strengths and weaknesses of people and how they fit and so I think that's what I would say. I could probably come up with something else, but that's
very nice.
that was for right now. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah.
And like always, if you guys have any conversation topics, feel free to email Mitch or you can email podcasts@sycamorecreek.org. Give us some topics. We've got, I think we're about halfway through this season of In All Things. We've got, next week we have, Josiah's going to be joining me and you. So
that's gonna be,
who knows what the heck is going to be going on that. And then I think, is it the week after that, we're doing a live onstage podcast. And that's going to be a lot of fun. A little bit different format than the way that we've done it before, because you're going to be on that too, right?
Yeah.
So you've got 3 out of 4.
That's 3 weeks of me.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna be like, no more.
Yeah. So that's cool. And then I think after that, I don't know if the plan is to have special guests or whatnot, but we've got some other topics that we're excited to share. So feel free to let us know what you guys want to hear. But that's all for today. We'll see you guys in 1 week. Peace out. Later. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the In All Things podcast. Our challenge for you today is to send this episode to one person. Seriously, think of somebody right now that could use this conversation and send it to them. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic ideas, please send them to podcast@sycamorecreek.org, and make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sycamore Creek Church so that you can always see what's going on in our world. If this conversation helped you at all, make sure you share it, leave a review, and subscribe so that you don't miss out on a single episode. We love you, God loves you, and we'll see you next week on the In All Things podcast.